You solved it. It took months, maybe years. You made the cuts. You changed the habits. You watched the number finally move in the right direction. And then you exhaled. Because it was done. Here is what nobody tells you about that moment. The problem you just solved was never the only one running. While you were focused on it, giving it all your attention, all your energy, all your discipline, something else was already forming. Not loudly, not with a warning, quietly, in the background. In the exact blind spot your focus created. You were not careless. You were concentrated. And concentration has a cost nobody talks about. The cost is everything you stopped seeing while you were looking directly at the thing you were trying to fix. The next problem does not wait for you to finish the last one. It starts while you are still in the middle of it. And by the time you look up, it already has a head start. If you want videos that show you not just the problem in front of you, but the one already forming behind it, subscribe now. That is exactly what this channel is built for. Think about the last time you fixed something big. Not just money, anything. A job you finally left. A body you finally trained. A relationship you finally repaired. Remember how it felt. The relief. The quiet pride. The sense that you had at last gotten ahead of something. That feeling is real. It is not fake. But it hides a detail you were never told to look for. While you gave that one thing your full attention, everything else in your life kept moving. It did not pause and wait for you. It kept going, unattended, in the space you had stopped watching. You were not neglecting it on purpose. You were doing something harder. You were solving a real problem. But solving takes focus. And focus is not free. Every time you point your attention at one place, you remove it from every other place. There is no version of focus that does not cost you this. You cannot look directly at two things at once. You cannot give full attention to a budget and a body and a marriage at the same moment. Something always gets the light. Something else always sits in shadow. And problems do not need light to grow. They grow best in shadow, quietly, without resistance, without your eyes on them. This is not about being lazy. This is not about being distracted. You can be fully disciplined in one area and still create a blind spot in another. The discipline itself is what creates the blind spot, because discipline requires narrowing. And narrowing always leaves something out. Think about the debt you finally paid off. While you were tracking every dollar, cutting every unnecessary expense, checking the balance every week, what else were you not checking? Your health, maybe. Your sleep. A friendship that was quietly fading, not because you did not care, because your attention had a limit, and you had already spent it. This pattern repeats everywhere, not just money. A person spends 2 years getting fit. They finally see the number on the scale they wanted, and in the same 2 years, without noticing, their finances quietly slipped. Not because they stopped caring about money, because their attention was somewhere else, fully, for 2 years. A person finally gets the promotion they worked years for, the late nights, the extra projects, the sacrifice of weekends, and in the background, a relationship that needed attention did not get it. Nobody warned them. Nobody could have, because the cost of focus is invisible while you are inside it. You only see it later, after the fact, when you finally look up. This is the part almost nobody says out loud. Solving a problem does not mean you are safe. It means you were looking one direction hard enough, long enough to finally move the needle. But everywhere you were not looking, time did not stop. Things kept happening, quietly accumulating, waiting to be noticed. The next problem is not some new event that appears out of nowhere. Most of the time, it has been building the entire time you were solving the last one. It started small, below your threshold of attention. By the time it becomes visible, it already has months, sometimes years, of momentum. That is why it feels sudden. It is not sudden. It was simply invisible to you because you were somewhere else. This is the pattern behind almost every story you hear about someone blindsided. They say it came out of nowhere. It did not come out of nowhere. It came out of the blind spot their focus created. And the story always sounds the same. I finally fixed one thing. Then right after, another thing fell apart. It feels like bad luck. It feels like the universe timing it cruelly. It is neither. It is the direct, predictable result of where your attention was and where it was not. Every choice to focus is also a choice to stop watching something else. You rarely think of it that way in the moment. In the moment, focus feels like progress. It feels like control. and it is progress on the one thing you can see. But control on one front is never control everywhere. It is a spotlight, not a floodlight. Everything outside the beam is still there, still moving, still changing. You just cannot see it while the light is pointed somewhere else. This is not a flaw in you. This is simply what attention is. It is limited. It has to choose. Nobody has enough attention to watch every part of their life with equal intensity at once. So every solved problem carries a hidden footnote. Something else, somewhere else, was left alone while you solved it. Most people never read that footnote until it becomes the next headline. Think about how this shows up across an entire life, not just one season of it. You focus hard on your career for 5 years. You get the title, you get the salary. You get the recognition. During those 5 years, your body quietly stored the cost of long hours and skipped meals. You did not notice because your attention was pointed at the career, not the body. Then, 1 year after the promotion, a health problem appears. It feels sudden. It feels unfair. It feels like bad timing. It is not bad timing. It is 5 years of a blind spot finally becoming visible. Or think of it the other way. You spend years focused on your health. You finally get strong, steady, disciplined. And while your body improved, your finances quietly drifted. Subscriptions you forgot, habits you allowed, small leaks you never checked, because checking would have required attention and your attention was somewhere else. None of this means focus is wrong. Focus is the only way anything gets solved. Nothing improves by accident. But every act of focus is also quietly an act of neglect somewhere else. This is the part that rarely gets said clearly. You are not failing when this happens. You are simply human with a limited amount of attention, living inside a life with many moving parts. The mistake is not in focusing. The mistake is believing that solving one problem means every problem has stopped moving. Nothing stops moving just because you looked away. It only stops being visible. And invisible is not the same as paused. Before we continue, drop a comment right now. Has a problem ever grown in your blind spot while you were focused somewhere else, and you only noticed when it was already too late? Tell me below. I read every single one. Now let us name the mechanism directly. No jargon, just the plain shape of it. Focus is not neutral. Focus always has a cost. The cost is attention removed from everything else. You cannot escape this. It is not a personal weakness. It is simply how attention works. Every hour you give to one problem is an hour not given to another. That is not a metaphor. It is the literal mechanics of a limited mind. You have one stream of attention. Life has many fronts that need it. So focus becomes a trade, always. Whether you notice the trade or not, you trade watching your spending for watching your career. You trade watching your health for watching your relationship. You trade watching one part of your life for watching another in the very same week. None of these trades are wrong. Some of them are necessary, but every trade creates a gap, and gaps are where problems grow best. A problem does not need permission to grow. It only needs to be unwatched. Give it enough unwatched time and it grows quietly, without resistance, without alarm. By the time it reaches your attention again, it has already grown past the easy stage. This is why the next problem always feels like it appeared with a head start. It did have a head start. It had every day you were not looking. Here is the part that stings the most. You were not looking because you were doing something right. You were solving the visible problem, the loud one, the one demanding your attention. That is not a mistake. That is exactly what you were supposed to do. But the cost of doing it right in one place is a blind spot in another. Nobody warns you about this because it does not sound like a warning. It sounds like ordinary life, ordinary focus, ordinary discipline, and that is exactly why it slips past almost everyone. Now think about what this means for the idea of control. You probably believed, once the last problem was solved, that you were back in control. Control is a comforting word. It feels solid. It feels final. But control in a life with many moving parts is never total. It is always partial, always local, always pointed at one thing at a time. The moment you gain control over one area, you lose visibility over another. This is not because you are weak. This is because attention has a shape. It can go deep or it can go wide. It cannot do both at full strength. When you go deep on one problem, you go shallow everywhere else. That shallow coverage is not carelessness. It is the mathematics of a limited mind. So the feeling of being in control after solving a hard problem is only half true. You are in control of the thing you are watching. You are at the very same moment out of control of everything you are not. This is the quiet cost behind every victory, not the effort it took, the blind spot it created while you were making that effort. Think of your own pattern now, not in general. Specifically, what did you finally fix recently after a long stretch of effort? And in that exact stretch, what else in your life was quietly left alone? You may already know the answer. Most people do once they are asked directly. This is not meant to alarm you. It is meant to show you something you were never taught to look for. The next problem is not random. It is not bad luck. It is not a cruel coincidence of timing. It is the direct, traceable result of where your attention was pointed and for how long. Every solved problem leaves behind a shadow, something it did not let you see. That shadow does not disappear when the problem is solved. It keeps growing. It grows until it becomes visible on its own, usually at the worst possible time. This is why so many people describe their life as one fire after another. It does not feel that way because life is chaotic. It feels that way because each fire was quietly starting during the last one. You were not failing to see it because you were weak. You were failing to see it because you were doing the only thing you could do. You were focused. And focus, by its nature, creates exactly this kind of shadow. Knowing this does not remove the shadow. It simply means you now know it is there, even when you cannot see it yet. You cannot watch everything at once. No one can. But you can now recognize the shape of what happens when you stop watching something. It does not vanish. It waits. It grows. Quietly, patiently, without needing your permission. And it will still be there. Larger whenever you finally look up again. This is not a problem you can solve by trying harder. Trying harder just means focusing more, which only deepens the very shadow we are describing. There is no version of this where you watch everything all the time perfectly. That was never available to you. It was never available to anyone. What is available is simply this: recognizing that solving one thing is never the whole picture. Somewhere right now, while you hear this, something else in your life is quietly moving. Not because you failed, because attention has a cost and you already spent yours elsewhere. Think back to the beginning of this video, the relief you felt when you finally solved that one hard problem. That relief was real. Nothing about it was fake, but it was only ever a report on one part of your life. The rest of your life kept moving while that relief settled in. Somewhere in that motion, something new was already taking its first quiet steps. Not to punish you, not because you did anything wrong, simply because that is what unwatched space always does. It fills with something. Think of every area of your life as a room with a light in it. You cannot keep every light on at full brightness, all at once, forever. So you choose. You point the brightest light at the loudest problem. Every other room stays dim, not dark, just dim, just quiet. Quiet enough for something to move in there without you noticing right away. This is happening in your life right now, somewhere, as you sit here listening. Not because you are careless, because you are, once again, focused somewhere else. This is the tension this channel keeps returning to, not to frighten you, not to sell you a fix, just to show you the plain mechanics of a life with limited attention. You solve one thing by looking at it fully, and in that same act, you stop looking somewhere else fully, without meaning to. That is not a flaw in your character. That is simply the price every act of focus quietly charges. The next problem is not waiting for you to finish this one. It never was. It started the day you decided to focus, and it has been growing in the exact spot you stopped looking. If this changed the way you see the problems you are currently solving, subscribe now. Every week, this channel shows you not just what is in front of you,